The Dr. Taz Show, the podcast. Dr. Taz, Superwoman Wellness. Here's Dr. Taz.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Superwoman Wellness, where you know I am determined to bring us all back to our superpowered selves. Joining me today are two very special guests who are both here to talk about Genexa. It's a company I am so excited about. I'm actually involved with them as well because I believe in their mission, and you will too once you learn a little bit more about it. With me today, I have Kelli Lane. Kelli Lane is the CMO of Genexa and the world's first clean medicine company, revolutionizing the pharmaceutical industry. In addition to Kelli, we also have Kenrese, who is the Director of People at Genexa. I'm excited to welcome you both to learn more about what you're doing and to talk about the need for clean medicine. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
So how did you both get involved with Genexa? And tell us a little bit about Genexa, its mission, its purpose, and what led each of you into the company.
Sure. I'll kick us off and then Kenrese, I'll throw to you. So I actually met Genexa about 1.5 years ago by way of my previous role. I ran a brand strategy firm called Co-Collective, and we worked together really closely on defining a lot of the strategy, the underpinnings of what the brand stands for and what we're trying to do in the world, and really building on kind of the brand lens to all of the work that our founders, Max and David, started in terms of starting this company and trying to really revolutionize medicine. And I came on board because to your point, you're one of our partners. The mission and the work that we're doing is just so incredibly inspiring and impactful, and to be part of a company like Genexa that's truly out to not just create cleaner medicines and cleaner products that we put in our bodies, but also, create systemic change what ingredients are allowed in medicines and allowed in products, full stop, is an incredible mission-driven work.
Yeah, and I love the mission, and that's why I myself am involved. Kenrese, what about you? What sort of led you into the doors of Genexa? What was your entryway?
My story, Dr. Taz, is so colorful. First of all, I just moved back from Europe. My husband and I were stationed in Louisiana. He's a military personnel, and we're looking, where do we want to plant our roots? And I said, well, let's go to Atlanta. And I was en route to working for a hospital. As we were talking before, I am a certified nutrition specialist as well. So, I was thinking I would stay in the integrative field, but then Genexa came about, and I do have a very strong background from Cornell University in, in HR. Yeah. So of course, when the opportunity presented itself to marry both, it was like a match made in heaven, and Kelli was actually a part of that story, which is so incredible. She was a part of the persons who actually recruited me into Genexa.
Fantastic. Well, it's been so fun for me because I don't even remember the year, but maybe it was 3 or 4 years ago. I was in LA and I was asked to meet with the founders, with Max and David, and it was a new company at the time, maybe 1 year old at the most. And it's been pretty amazing to watch the company grow and be on the shelves at a lot of major retailers and hear people talking about it. Now, the big thing that attracted me to Genexa was the idea of clean medicine and why, we are putting all this stuff in our medicines, our over-the-counter medicines, even our pharmaceutical medicines. For example, I don't know how many patients I've had that I'll prescribe, Synthroid or a thyroid medication. Well, there's gluten in thyroid medications, and the majority, I would say 60 to 70% of my thyroid patients need to be gluten-free. So we've got this sort of disconnect with so many different medications, both over the counter, both prescription. Why are we not cleaning up our medications like we're cleaning up food and beauty products and skincare and household goods and cleaners and all this other stuff?
Wow. Kelli,
Loaded question. Sorry.
Kelli, do you want to
No, it's a bit. It depends on how. There's a couple of answers, I think, to that question. The most obvious, I think, is it's a counterintuitive thought, right? Like, you would never think that the products that are literally supposed to make you feel better are the ones that would ever have ingredients in them that could potentially make you feel worse. Like, that's just a counterintuitive thought. Maybe you would expect that from your water bottle. It had BPA 10 years ago, right? Like, let's take that out of the water bottles. Maybe you would expect that from, oh, organic strawberries. Should I be worried about pesticides that are spraying the non-organic ones? People, I think, truly don't even think that they had to question medicine. And it wasn't until, David and Max, who were both new parents at the time, started turning around the bottle and being like, what is propylene glycol? Why is there talc in here? What is
red number 40,
right? Like, there's just so many. As soon as you turn the bottle around, this. It's like, wait a second, what is that? And what does it do? And why is it in there? And what purpose is it serving? And is there a better option? The answer is yes. I think people just don't know.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I think there is this sort of mentality, well, if it's a medicine, it's good for me, right? Like, how can a medicine not be good for me? Kenrese, what is your sort of perspective on this? Like, why do you think, the industry has been built up to make all this okay? Like, all of this is fine to put in our medicines. What's happened there? Is it the same thing that drove the food issue and the beauty issue and everything else? Is it always what's cheaper, better, faster is best? Kind of what were the forces behind this to begin with?
Dr. Taz, you asked some very potent questions there. I think it's loaded. I think that people are on the consumer side, they really don't know, like Kelli said. On the company side, I think that it really is what's cheaper and faster. And I do believe a lack of knowledge. As an integrative practitioner, we see it all the time. You will talk to, no knock against doctors, but having gone the integrative route and learning some of the traditional things, there's a disconnect in terms of what they learn in what's taught in school. So when you take that same premise and then the people that are behind some of these big corporations, they are using some very old methodologies that have not been changed for a very, very long time. I mean, in Europe, some of these very things that we've taken out of our products, like the red number 40, is completely banned in Europe. So why are we still doing it in the US? And there are other places in the Caribbean, I can tell you, they're on to, a different way of thinking as well. So I think we need to catch up in the US.
Absolutely. And it just baffles my mind why we have this discrepancy between the US and Europe and other places. But let's break it down for everybody watching or listening today. So the EWG, the Environmental Working Group, right? They have the dirty dozen when it comes to foods, things that you should buy organic, things that you really should pay attention to in terms of how they're sourced. What would you say the dirtiest chemicals are when it comes to our medications? What would a parent, be looking for? Someone pick up that bottle and turn it. What should they be really looking for as maybe the top things that would make them put it down and choose a different product?
I think, Kelli, I just want to jump in to say it's,
go ahead.
To me, all of them are dirty. Let's just start there. Right?
Okay, got it. It's all bad.
I like the fact that you mentioned the EWG. I think that's very important for people to know, .org, that people should know and be educated about how do you go and learn about some of these dirty ingredients. I am a big proponent of anything that says a dye, be very wary, right? Or even, I know we're talking about, we're not talking about topical things, but even perfumes. Once it tells you that there is a scent and you don't know what it's about, or if you can't even pronounce it, that's a red flag. And that's something for you to say, hold on a second, let me go and investigate. I took a liberty of even just high fructose corn syrup that most of us are familiar with. A lot of these cause inflammation in the body. And some of the other products that we're seeing, or content that we're seeing in some of these products, also are carcinogenic, which everybody's saying, how come everybody's getting cancer now? But right. It is because these things are in these products and we're not paying attention. The list is long. One of the things I want to say, shameless plug here, go on to our website, genexa.com, and we have listed a ton of different things that you can see that we've taken out of the medicines. And that's a great place to start to see what are some of the things that are bad for you in some of these products.
So no blue Motrin, no red Motrin, stay away.
Once it says blue, red, pink.
The worst. So, yeah. Is that a safe bet? Red number 40, blue number, what is it? Blue number 3 or something like that?
Yes. There's yellows, there's all kinds of dyes. The one that I always point to, this is a little scary.
Yeah.
So propylene glycol, it's in most medicines. It is literally the poisonous ingredient in antifreeze. It is why on every bottle of antifreeze, it says do not drink poisonous, because of the amount of propylene glycol that's in that
Why the heck are we putting it in our medication?
I mean, there's formaldehyde in our medicines, Dr. Taz. There's talc, there's wood pulp, there's aluminum, there are so many things that should never be in there. And I'm going to come back to the point that Kenrese made. The cost of sucralose is 0.04 to $1 the cost of regular sugar. Medicines are bitter in taste, right? When you take an acetaminophen or an ibuprofen or a product that has an active ingredient, which is the reason you're taking that medicine, it has a bitter taste naturally. You need to mask that taste for most people to be able to ingest it without not wanting to. And the sucralose to sugar cost differential, you can imagine what that looks like across the board. If you are on a factory floor within a manufacturer that makes medicines, it's harder and more expensive to make medicines that have real ingredients, right? Ingredients you can pronounce, ingredients that are in your fruit bowl, on your kitchen counter, ingredients that you actually would want to give your children or want to put in your body that you know will not cause harm.
So Kenrese, coming from Europe, since you spent some time there, is there, like, I know there are too many chemicals to go through, but like, is there a number, like Europe allows X, whereas the US allows Y, and what's the difference between that?
That's a great question. You know, I've never really, I can't say, Dr. Taz, that I've ever really looked on the number. What I do know is that they're super strict, so much so that, let's say, for example, you have somebody, and I'll use Germany because that's where I spent most of my time. If you're sending any form of supplements to Germany, they're going to actually stop that at the border and they're going to check those ingredients. And if there's one ingredient that's on their banned list, let's say, for example, the dyes, it's not going to go to the person. They're literally going to destroy it on spot. I promise you, I actually have clients. So outside of Genexa, I do still have my private clientele, and I can tell you, I have clients right now in Germany, and I have to actually use fulfillment places there, because if I try to send anything from some of the traditional places, which will remain nameless here, as you know, it will not go. They will.
So I've got to tell this quick story. I don't want to take too much time away, but so we did a mission trip to Uganda about, I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago, pre-pandemic. And I get down in Paris and I have this whole bag, because my children were with me. I have this whole bag of medications because I don't want my team to get sick. I don't want the kids to get sick. So I planned for everything, like stomach, respiratory, fever. Like, so I had a whole bag, and I got searched, and they literally pulled every medication bottle out. And I'm like, do they think I'm carrying like illegal drugs? And they were reading the labels. Now it makes sense, because they were probably looking for some of this stuff, you know, but I held up
in their country.
You know, all kinds of drama there for sure.
I was looking down, Dr. Taz, because I was looking at our Genexa Instagram handle where we post tons of information about ingredients. And one of our posts from a few months ago talks about the difference between the EU policy and the US policy. And strategically, right, or conceptually, I guess I would say, the EU practices something called precautionary principle, which means the ingredient has to be proven safe before you can allow it to be in your medicines or any products, quite honestly, that you're going to put in or on your body. The US practices the opposite. It's safe until proven harmful. And so there's literally 1,000 ingredients that the EU has banned that the US has not. And it's just crazy to think about, right? It's mind-blowing. It's a good word.
Well, how does Genexa get around, how does it stay competitive, right? If cost is a factor, if the consumer is looking at numbers, like how does Genexa get around that issue as a company to be viable and to stay in the game and to really affect change?
Our R&D team are magicians. No.
I was just about to say, I hire the most incredible, brilliant.
Good job.
No, I mean, that is true. Both of those things are true, but we have fantastic manufacturing partners who, quite frankly, went out on a limb with us a few years ago and said, you know what, let's figure this out. You're right. We can do better. Let's figure out how to do it. Our ops team is constantly sourcing from reputable places and really looking at the certifications and the qualifications of the ingredients, and therefore what our medicines would be certified by, right? Whether it's gluten-free or vegan or non-GMO or organic. We also take it beyond just what's in the bottle. We're very conscious about, you know, the packaging that we use and the cartons that we have the packaging in. And to answer your question, how do we remain competitive? We are obsessed with making sure we're making clean medicine that's available for all. We don't believe that it's just a premium play, and we don't believe that it should only be reserved for certain, groups of people. We think everyone deserves the right to clean medicine. And that's ultimately, I think, why we wake up every day to do what we do. Like we're a bunch of very passionate, sometimes too much. So,
Dr. Taz, it really is people over everything here at Genexa.
Yeah.
I mean, we embody that, we live by that. In just even if you come to our offices and understand even our own snacks, we try to keep it healthy, because at the end of the day, we want to embody what we're telling people. And I think that Genexa, just by Genexa hiring a nutritionist / a HR person, that tells you where their thinking is at. They're outside of the box when it comes to that. I think those are some of the things that we use to stay competitive, because, we're playing a game of chess, and we get it. We understand it's not cheap. Kelli has a very tough job, and we all support each other in getting that on the shelf, from the tiniest thing to the largest, we ensure that it happens.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into more of the nitty gritty here with some of these ingredients. And if, there are moms listening out there, there are, just busy women listening who are just running really, like they get a headache, they're going to grab something. Let's help break down, the over the counter world for them versus the prescription world, where Genexa falls in that world. And, why they should be really reaching for one of these products versus another one that might be a habit or might be more easily maybe accessible.
Yeah. So Genexa's mission, you said this a couple times at the start of the conversation, we're on a mission to revolutionize the medicine aisle.
Yeah.
And we don't just mean one part of that medicine aisle. We truly mean that we are on a mission to create a cleaner alternative to every product that's on that shelf. There are a lot of products in a medicine aisle. There are homeopathics, there are supplements, there are drugs, right? There are deemed by the FDA to be allopathic drugs. We have no bias about which product is right for you and your family. We believe that that is your decision to make. Personally speaking, I shop across all different categories. I'm a mom of 2 young kids. And when they get that little tickle in their throat, I'm like, okay, elderberry, where's the elderberry, right? Like, let's make sure that we can try to nip this in the butt. When they start to get the sniffle, I'm like, all right, let's try some kind of cold crush or, a homeopathic blend that can help work with their body to try to fight it. But when they have that fever and when they have a full-blown cold and cough and runny nose, I am reaching for the diphenhydramine, right? Or the guaifenesin or that acetaminophen. That's where Genexa plays as well. And we have our kids' allergy and our kids' cold and cough and our kids' pain and fever. My husband's favorite product is the antacid, which is a competitive to Tums, but a much cleaner one. And so, our line is we're not laser focused on only one category. We really think it's important to create cleaner versions of all and give the customer, the consumer, more choice.
And I think that's, so important to realize that there is an option. I think many people don't realize that there is now an alternative. You don't have to reach for the traditional brands that, we've all grown up with or our parents used or things like that. Genexa stays in the OTC world, correct? Or have they started to cross over into the prescription world?
No, we're strictly OTC today.
And explain OTC to folks. Like, how would you best describe that? If someone's like, why are they using acronyms? What's OTC? So explain that.
Over the counter. Go ahead, Kenrese.
So just medicines that you typically go to a pharmacy if you're having a cold, any simple thing like that you can just grab without a doctor writing a prescription. Right. So that's the space that we're occupying right now.
Excellent. And so let's help folks. Like, what would you stock in a family's medicine cabinet? What would you make sure is there? What products? What are like the 5 products people should have on hand so they're not having to rush around and find things last minute?
If you are a mom like Kenrese and I, you definitely want your children's products, right? You want your acetaminophen, your pain and fever. You want your cold and cough. You want your allergy. If you like to indulge in some spicy foods, perhaps, you will definitely want the antacid. I live by our allergy care, especially at this time of the year when, you're just out and about and allergies are in full full swing and you need that little extra help. But, you know, if you have infants, you obviously want your vitamin D drops and your, you know, your infant's pain and fever in case they get that fever. And it's scary, right? It's a scary moment.
If you travel.
And if you travel, you may want some of the jet lag.
Jet lag. That's one of my favorites.
What's in jet lag?
We do. We make a jet lag remedy.
That's awesome. What's in it? Do you guys know off the top of your head?
Oh, good question. You're putting me on the spot.
I know, right?
Don't worry about it. I was curious, but maybe we'll actually need jet lag in the next.
Hopefully, God willing, right?
But I think that, you know, the story of Genexa is incredible. What's next for Genexa? What's on the horizon for them?
Oh, lots of initiatives. Brand impact is really important to us. As Kenrese said, our internal mantra is people over everything. And we're working on formalizing a lot of the efforts that we do kind of organically, to be honest with you, into a larger brand impact strategy. So we'll be working on rolling out some of the bigger initiatives that support that later this year. We're also coming out with some adult SKUs later this year, which I'm very excited about. Later in Q3, Q4 timeframes. So be on the lookout for that. And then, you know, our pipeline is incredibly robust. We have a pretty impressive 5-year pipeline for new products to roll out and new spaces to get into. And, you know, like I said, we're a bunch of overly passionate health nuts. So I think, you know, you can probably start to figure out where we may want to go in the future.
That's amazing. Well, both of you are in a company. It's not a startup anymore, but it's a growing company. Growing companies are busy. There's a lot going on. Both of you as women, as moms, you know, one question to ask that, you know, may not be necessarily Genexa related, but it's more just us as women talking when we're trying to run businesses, is like, what are some of your hacks, your secrets? Because the passion is there, right? I think for all of us, the passion is there to make our dreams happen, to make this stuff reality, to have this massive impact. But it can bleed into your health, and it can bleed into time with family, and it can do all kinds of things to you. So how do you guys achieve balance? What does that mean for each of you? I'm curious what your answers would be there.
Kelly, I have to jump on this one. Every time I hear about this balance, I just want to remind the ladies out there, particularly, balance is relative on any given day. All right. So just free yourself from that notion of balance. That's the first thing. One of my biggest hacks is being honest with yourself in terms of what you can do and what you cannot do. Learning to say no. I know we're the keepers and the womb and we're all these lovely things, but just remember to say no. The biggest thing I do on any given day is have a timetable of what do I need to sustain my mental space. Right. So I do not skip my exercise. I recently hired a personal trainer, Dr. Taz, because I realized that, look,
I've got muscle now. Look, I did the same. Look.
Get it. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm coming to find you, by the way. You know, and in the evenings when I go home, because it's still sunny, I actually go for an hour ride. You know, I have in this community that I'm at, you know, there's a pathway there that I can ride on. And I make sure that I do that every single day. And that clears my mind. So I start in the morning and end the evening ride. And of course, you know, my colleagues will tell you that my lunches, people are always like, what does she have today? Because they're all very interesting, you know? I mean, I'm a nutritionist, you know, as well as I'm an HR practitioner. So you get it.
Yeah.
But those things are key. Those hacks are very, very important. Eating well and exercising is my biggest thing. If I don't do that, everything else will fall apart.
Falls apart. I agree.
never compromise on that.
I would say those are my non-negotiables for sure too. What about you, Kelly?
All +1 to everything Kenrese said. I also think finding your allies, right? Finding that your village, like what does that look like, especially as working moms? Like there's just, I remember on my train ride back into work after coming back from my second maternity leave, I was incredibly just kind of overwhelmed with emotion, like most moms are that are going back to work. And I really reflected back on the village I have. And that's not just, you know, obviously my husband and my family, but my coworkers that picked it up so I could take a maternity leave. I felt really fortunate that I was able to do that. And, you know, my friends that would, without asking, would just kind of drop something by because they knew I probably needed a meal that night, right? Or there are so many people that I think help support you in what you want to do. And, you know, like I said, I have 2 young girls, and it's so exciting to kind of see that they are so unblemished by the world around us and what is or is not possible for them. And I really, when I'm feeling overwhelmed or I'm feeling stressed out, I call the people that are my allies, that are part of my village. Kenrese is one of them.
I was just about to say, Kelli is one of my people.
And say, okay, hold on, I just need 5 minutes. And she gives me wisdom because she has a perspective, right? That's just helpful to kind of pick my head up and breathe for a second and tackle it one thing at a time.
I think that's incredible. Well, so honored to be associated with you guys. So happy to have you on the show.
Likewise.
If you want to learn more about Genexa, what's the best resource for them? Where should they go?
Genexa.com, as Kenrese mentioned earlier. You also, if you ever turn around at one of our bottles, you'll find one of our founders' cell phone numbers on the back of that bottle. He actually picks up the phone. And he's the talker. So you can just have a chat with Max if you ever need to have any questions or want to talk.
I love it. Well, thank you both so much, Kenrese, Kelli. I appreciate you guys taking time out to talk to us about clean medicine. Hopefully it is the future of medicine. We will all be thinking about shifting and changing in that direction, and maybe as doctors too, taking all of that very seriously. So thank you both so much. I appreciate it. For everybody else, thank you for watching this episode of Superwoman Wellness. Remember, you can rate and review it and share it with your friends. If you screenshot it to me, I will send you a free bottle of Boost, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.